Approaching the end of August already, and of course, harvest underway in parts of the state. I've been seeing a lot of that wheat come off. I know back home for not only myself, but my next guest, well, they finally got some measurable rain up in the Minnewacan and Rugby area. Vern Thompson is a candidate for the Ag Commissioner's seat here in North Dakota and joins us here on Afternoons Live. Vern, welcome back. It's been too long.
Yeah, it has. But, we're still two Benson County boys.
Benson County boys here in the big city of Fargo. Yeah, boy, we've made it, haven't we?
Oh, golly.
There's so much that is on the plate right now for a seat that you're running for. You've been all over the state. I've been seeing the town halls. In fact, you're going to have one in Harwood on Friday as well that have to do with the data centers and some proposals of what, the state could do to help guide this process. I'm curious, though, that you've been to places, whether it's in Mandan, where I saw 600 people in an auditorium, all across. You've been down to Ellendale, because you were the first person I'd seen the photos of the roads that had been beaten up during the spring.
Yeah.
So, you've been everywhere, and I'm curious, you're out there saying your piece, but what are you hearing is what I'm curious about.
People are very upset in the process that's taking place with all this AI data center development. And what I mean by that is they're concerned about their property rights. They're concerned about out-of-state, multi-billion-dollar corporations that are coming in and bullying people. They're concerned with the transmission lines, the process for the transmission lines going in. And I've had a handful of people that have the transmission line to power a data center is going across their land, and they basically are saying, hey, we got a lease for you here to put this transmission line in, and if you don't agree with us within 30 days or some odd number, we can use eminent domain against you. So those are the things, and why people are upset is because there's so much secrecy. There's we saw with Harwood and Fargo, the non-disclosure agreements, and the special session is going to start to deal with that one. Senator Tim Mathern was with us at a press conference, and he introduced a bill to do away with non-disclosure agreements. But when you have those kinds of things taking place, the people are thinking the worst. They don't trust the government, even in North Dakota now, which is, you and I served in the Senate. It's wasn't that way before.
No, and when it comes to the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements, I had the governor on to kick off the show today, and I'd asked him about that because that was State Senator Tim Mathern's bill.
Yep,
he got some Republicans to sign on, so it's now a bipartisan proposal, and the governor had made comment that this is more of a political thing than a policy thing, which now I'd ask him because he's come out and said, do not sign these NDAs. I'm curious because he made the claim that with North Dakota's open records laws, that people can submit open records requests and get a good chunk of the detail of these NDAs, which I question when it comes to some of the proprietary information because if you end up on the Ag Commission, you're on the Industrial Commission, and then you get into some of those executive meetings where that is prevented from public record access. But there is this claim that I heard today that I hadn't before, that there's still a way even to get the information from the NDAs without having this law change. I'm not there yet. I'm curious. I just want to get your reaction because you used to be in one of those chairs as well.
Yeah, I believe he's correct, but I'm not there yet with you because no one's done anything about it. So it must be legal until it's proven it's illegal. But I did have a conversation with Drew Wrigley a week ago Saturday. We were both at a wedding. And I asked him about those things, and he said, he kind of said the same thing as what the governor is saying, but they were looking into it, and they were going to have something come forward here in the next few days or weeks. So it may be, but why even sign them?
Yeah, well, and the governor also alluded to that some people that have signed these are starting to show a little regret that they did. He didn't give me any names, any locations, but I think because of the town halls that you're attending, and in fact, some of them you're hosting, and the amount of emotion that's being on display from residents about the secrecy, about the not knowing until ground's being broken or just 2 weeks before, that people have to start paying attention in those offices of, okay, how do we temper down the emotions in this, because there's a lot out there.
Well, yeah, there is. What we're going to try and do up in Harwood on the 28th at 7 o'clock at the community center, we're going to hold a forum, and we organize this with community members. This isn't a Vern Thompson running for ag commissioner, and I'm going to be out there solving all the problems. I'm no better than anybody else. But at least I got the guts to stand up and speak for people, and we've got legislators and state officials that aren't willing to do that. So, I'll do that. But we've got an environmental engineer who's going to give a perspective on data centers in North Dakota altogether. And I handed you a document. It's Responsible Hyperscale Development Framework that we have available, that we were the first ones that had something out there for counties or cities or townships to look at. And we worked with this isn't, just like Vern's brainchild. I had an engineer working on it. I had people from Oliver and Mercer County, concerned citizens that have been involved with these things for months. And we kind of made a checklist of what you can do to have basically community benefit agreements right up front, and just make sure that everything is done right the first time instead of trying to sneak in and doing the easy way or the quickest way and just disregarding the respect of the people of North Dakota.
Well, and the thing that I've been saying from the get-go, because a lot of promises are made up front, of this is not just about the tax base, because that's going to be what it is, but we can fund this, we can help create that. What does your community want? Oh, that's just word of mouth. That's just the trust of, okay, this is the good neighbor that you want, and I hope that they live up to. But if you have anybody in that community organize and say, look, we want a little bit more ordinance, in Harwood, for example, a home rule charter. What I heard from somebody that's organizing up there, that basically you got the litigation threat being dangled over you. I heard from other residents up there that a committed $1 million investment in some aspect might not be coming now because of that. So it's kind of that, either go along with what we want or, guess what? Tough. We're not going to live up to what we promise in word of mouth. So when you're talking about getting that in writing up front, it almost seems necessary at this point.
It does. If the project is so good, doesn't matter what type of project it is, industrial development of data centers or dairy cow operations or whatever it is.
Plants we've seen.
Yeah, all these, have it up. First of all, have it open and honest, and secondly, then have it transparent. We don't have the transparency, we don't have the accountability, and that all needs it. That can happen if they want it bad enough. That can happen because the old saying, "Sunshine is the best disinfectant." Well, we need some sunshine on these things so that people have an understanding and then they can trust a process. Right now, they don't.
What's the pushback to proposal or to offerings like what you've had? Where's it coming from, and what is it?
It's coming from people that want to see the tax revenue, the property taxes, the construction jobs, and there's no doubt that there is a economic impact. But one of the things that ought to be up front, if I was in the chair of a county, city, or township, when I've served on I've served on all three of them. Well, not county, but county, township, and city. I've served in those capacities. We want to make sure that if this thing goes belly up, who's responsible? I know with the transmission lines, I looked at some of the lease agreements, and it was pretty much on the landowner. Now this would be different with a data center, but if it goes belly up, who's responsible for all that concrete, all that land? There should be a decommissioning process as well. And that ought to be all up front. It should all be spelled out. There should be some liability, because if the liability falls on the city or the county or the township, they can't afford that. Mm-hmm. So you got to plan for the worst, but you pray for the best. And there's not going to be as many jobs as what people can, kind of complain, or not complain, but kind of say that they're going to have.
Yeah, post-construction.
Yeah, post-construction is not going to be the jobs that people think it's going to be.
Well, and you started off talking about us both being Benson County boys. Well, Benson County decided we're putting a moratorium on these for at least a year. So you have some of that conversation going on as well. Our guest right now is Vern Thompson. I see comments coming into the Adventure RV Text Club at 35270. You send them in, we'll ask them. We're going to continue this conversation. I need to ask about the importation of beef and what that means. Of course, he's running for the North Dakota Egg Commissioner. There's a trade dispute all over again with our biggest trading ally, which is Canada, for a place like North Dakota. That's all on the table, and, of course, the drought that many people are dealing with and what the state can and cannot do to help alleviate some of the stress going on there. We'll come back with more conversation with Vern Thompson next on Afternoons Live. Vern Thompson is my guest. He is a candidate for the North Dakota Egg Commissioner's Office. And last thing on data centers before I want to talk about some other issues before the office that you're seeking to be a part of. There's a legislative committee that was, in my opinion, rushed together after people started talking about this, but nonetheless, I got a committee meeting on Monday, August 31st, which is a week from today, which is right before the special session that they're going to be having when they're going to discuss NDAs. If you go to Thompson4ND.com, I see that you have a quick, easy way for people to contact their lawmaker on that committee.
We do. We think it's very important to weigh in on specifically the non-disclosure agreements, and there's still a lot of people out there that want the special session to deal with a temporary pause, a moratorium, and that's their way of go to our website, Thompson4ND.com, and they can basically, it's a simple form, they can write a letter, and we're going to take all those copies to the committee meeting on August 31st.
I want to read this comment to you. Tyler, it sure seems like Vern is running for the wrong office. His focus has been on regulatory issues for North Dakota. The Public Service Commission would be a better fit. Yes, I know the Egg Commissioner sits on the Industrial Commission. I wanted you to respond to that, though.
Well, if he thinks this Public Service Commission is doing, why aren't they doing it? The thing, why am I involved in it, is because farmers were concerned about their property rights and eminent domain and all this industrial development. And you've known me for a long time. When somebody calls, I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican or independent, I'm going to go talk to them. I'm going to go meet them. I don't see anybody else out in the state of North Dakota that's been doing this. So as someone who is giving themselves for the greater good of North Dakota, I'm going to get involved in this business about stay in your lane. That's a bunch of bull. If you care about the public, you'll stand up and you'll speak out for them no matter what the issue.
Yeah, when you bring up, it doesn't matter if it's a D or an R behind that name. And you got proof on that because you were hosting a forum here in Fargo, and forgive me, I don't remember how long ago it was, but about suicide prevention when it comes to agriculture. And there were Republicans invited, there were Democrats of local officials. Both of them showed up. For not everybody showed up from this area of people you invited, but when it comes to Harwood, my understanding is you're doing the same thing up there. You're saying, get on up here. Doesn't matter what party you belong to.
For the caller or the texter, these issues aren't a red team or a blue team. They're not a one office in the state of North Dakota issue. These are people issues. And so for Harwood, yes, we're going to invite every legislator and every candidate to come and weigh in. It's public. We've already invited Doug Goring to come, and we've invited Applied Digital, who is building that data center. We'll see if they come, but we're going to do it because the people matter. We put the people over the powerful.
When it comes to other issues, when it comes to agriculture, you talk about, data centers because it's farmers concerned about property rights. You mentioned about eminent domain for some of these utility lines. This importing of beef has a lot of people upset. And when it comes to how this is going to be utilized it's going to be at a reduced cost, it's going to be mixed, all these things. I need to get your take as somebody who's wanted to go out to be the Egg Commissioner of North Dakota about, those ranchers and cattlemen and women in the state don't seem real thrilled at the prospects of this.
On Friday, after the president made that announcement that he had a deal to bring in 300,000 metric ton of beef from Argentina, which has got a bad reputation as far as quality of food coming out of there, especially meat. My phone blew up. I was on the phone literally till 9 o'clock on Friday night and quite a bit of the time Saturday. I had Republicans calling me and said, Vern, I see what you're out there doing and you're working for the people. I'm a Republican, but by God, I'm going to vote for you because our ag commissioner isn't doing a damn thing about these imports or the tariffs, that have been taking place. And that's another thing that the people are frustrated. Another one called me and he said, we're facing a drought. I can't get hay, and I'm not going to be drilling any more holes for water spots, for the cattle. We're moving the cattle home because we don't have feed. Somebody better start talking about feed for the winter, not just hay for the summer or pasture for the summer. So those are the kinds of conversations that have been I've been having, and I'm grateful that people are open-minded. And I don't care who they voted for in the past. I don't care where they come from. If they got an issue that needs to be dealt with, we're going to deal with it.
Well, the announcement that, like you said, came out on Friday, it spilled into Afternoons Live. We didn't have enough time allotted to actually dive in to it. And those that text in saying, well, people are complaining about the price of beef. Well, yeah, I mean, the prices of everything has gone up. And when you're noticing whether it's gasoline or beef, there are certain questions of why that is. We can talk round and round about, okay, the head and the herd is the lowest it's been in a very long time. I think the governor earlier said ever.
75 years.
Yeah, a long time. Yep. Double my life almost. And the meat packers being as monopolistic as what they currently are, and there was at some point an investigation from the Department of Justice looking into it, and didn't see anything of a result from that, Vern.
Well, follow the money. That's what I say. That's what I said when I served in the legislature. Follow the money. Who's making out on this? We had $20 billion for Argentina to prop up their economy, or their dollar, I should say. Then we had another $20 billion going to them, and there's these big four packing plants, for example. They do business down there. They want cheap meat. And if you look behind the curtain, you're going to see that there's some big funds backing the packers. The packers have 80 to 85% of the market. I'm looking at value-added markets for North Dakota, and we could probably build our own packing plant, be a co-op, and we wouldn't have to worry about all that extra money.
Vern, you got just a little bit more time for me. Vern Thompson's our guest. I got a couple of more topics I want to throw his way. You can as well at 35270. Welcome back to more Afternoons Live after KFGO News. Fast approaching 3:38 KFGO time. It is Monday, in case it still didn't feel like a Monday afternoon. That weekend went by way too fast. My guest is Vern Thompson. He is the candidate for the North Dakota Ag Commission. We talked about data centers. We talked a little bit about beef, and this message comes in. Tell Vern to build a packing plant in North Dakota. We need it. Comes in by Text Club.
Well, we'd be happy to do that. What we would like to do is have a 4-year plan. The first 2 years, actually, this legislative set, we got a plan. We can propose it, but we're going to need to have a study done, a feasibility study done, and that will take some money. But I believe it will be profitable. This co-op, but if we'll find out from a study, okay? That's the way to do it. To me, that's the only thing that we need the state to actually get involved with. A cooperative, just like the Durham pasta plant in Carrington. The same guy that was the brainchild of that has helped us with this one. And so I think we got a pretty good plan, but we'll see where it goes.
What I'm hearing is more to come on that conversation, and we'll be following along. It's been dry out there.
Oh.
You've been all over the state. And I know in our home country, there's some people that got 8 inches up in Rugby. Down here, where home is now, it has been so dry. And I know that there was a farmer up in Grandin that had, and I saw it on Facebook, and I think he was able to show you as well. That corn was about the size of the palm of my hand right now.
Yeah, he had a cob of corn that wasn't going to do any more than it was right there, that was about 3 inches long. And we had to look for cobs. Most of it didn't even make cob. And What's different from that, it was Ross Lockhart. I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, but it was Ross Lockhart, who has been on the farm. He's a fourth-generation farmer, good person. They're homesteaded in 1887 is when they homesteaded, before North Dakota became a state. And they're going to have to cut, they're not even going to cut it for silage. It's too far gone. They're just going to have to disc it down, or put it in the trash into the ground. And the sugar beets, they're supposed to open up the ends for the beet harvest. They were probably 3 inches around at the top. I haven't seen a sugar beet that small for I don't remember when.
Yeah, we had State Senator Rob Kupak from Moorhead on Friday, and he just got back from touring some of the sugar beet and said that same thing. Goes, sugar content is high, it's good.
Sure.
But to be able to get the equipment to do what it needs to do in this concrete ground that is out there right now is going to be a chore for some of them out there. I bring it up, one, because it's something worthy of discussion, but also you think about just everything else, and I hate this cliche of that perfect storm. But you've got the importation of certain products. We've got a trade war that's now lighting up again with Canada, and a place like North Dakota that you want to be the egg commissioner. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of trade back and forth over that border here. And I'm not sure what more, as a talk show host, that could be said, but you're a candidate for that egg commissioner spot. So what do you do with all these different moving parts, all seemingly on the negative side right now for agriculture? What do you do from the state?
Well, the first thing with the trade, as you probably remember, I have a trucking business, and I haul natural gas liquids across the border into Canada almost on a daily basis. I kind of held off on it now while I'm campaigning. But February 2025, when the first tariffs went in, not the 2017 ones, but the 2025, I stood up and said, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good for farmers or for agribusiness in North Dakota. This is not going to be good for tourism. In fact, I have a letter that I sent to our congressional delegation offering in this, I believe this was in March, I offered to host or help them put together a town hall, a public town hall meeting to deal with this. I saw what was going to happen, and they didn't respond. I talked to each of I sent the letter. I called up and talked to each of the offices, and, we'll get back to you. Nobody ever got back to me. I even did it with Governor Armstrong a little bit later. I got a letter that I sent to him asking him to work with the Montana governor and the Minnesota governor. Go to Ottawa and talk to some of your counterparts. Figure out how we can, deal with this trade war, because it's hurting everybody. And I didn't get anything back.
Well, and the governor acknowledged to kick off today's show that tourism has been impacted by it, and I kind of chuckled about the scenario here, but in the long term, there is a sentiment north of this border of a lot of anger towards at least the administration. I won't say that they're angry about just an average North Dakotan Minnesotan here, but there's a defiance of, well, the hell with you then. And how long is that going to take to alleviate, where all of a sudden the relationships that someone like you have built of, driving across a border, multiple times a week, where, your business is going to be impacted by some of this potentially. Yeah,
they say, Vern, we still like you, but we do not like your administration, and we are not going down to Hoostfest and Minot, or going to Grand Forks or Fargo for vacationing, or going out to the Medora for, some vacation and stuff. That stuff is down 25 to 35%. I don't know what the last numbers are, but that's been millions of dollars, let alone we have hundreds of millions of dollars that North Dakota production is losing with our closest trade partner in Canada. And what they're telling me up there is that they're going elsewhere. Forget, we aren't a reliable partner anymore. And they're upset with it because we have relatives on both sides of the border. A lot of people do, and like to go back and forth. Well, they're not going to trade with us anymore. The heck with you guys. We got to go with somebody that's more dependable. And if the administration thinks that Canada's going to back down, They got another thing coming. That guy's got 66% approval rating right now.
Well, and hearing some of the commentary today, from other parts of Canada, I mean, they're angry. They're justifiably angry about it, and it seems like they finally just had enough of this back and forth. So it seems like this taking a stand is what I would say, Vern. Vern, I know you got a town hall meeting coming up in Harwood on Friday. That's going to be at 7 o'clock at the community center?
Yep, 7 o'clock. Everyone's invited, and, we'll have a environmental engineer talking about data centers across the state. I'll put on a presentation on some of the things that I've seen, and it's really about the people. We want to get input from the people, and Harwood's looking at this home rule and stuff. I'm sure that'll get brought up. What's wrong with politics today is the fact that elected officials are not out talking to the people. I've been out there listening, talking, and coming up with workable solutions, and I'm going to continue to do that. And it's paying off so far. We'll see what happens down the road.
Well, and if people want to learn more about your candidacy, where do they go? Where's the website?
The website is at Thompson 4ND. That's Thompson 4ND.com. And my phone number is right on there as well. 701-400-6767. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody.
Vern, I always appreciate your time. We're going to continue following along, all right?
You bet. Thanks, Cart. And Benson County's pretty proud of you. You know that.
Depends on what establishment you're stopping into there, Vern. Vern Thompson, ladies and gentlemen. Vern, we'll talk to you again soon, all right? That's Vern Thompson, again, a candidate for the North Dakota Egg Commissioner's Office. We'll get you a weather update from Tom Szymanski, and we'll come back and round out the second hour of After News Live next.